We have Mr. Gottemoller. Did I say it right?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. And Mr. Walkup, who are both vying for McHenry County Board Chair. We will start with Mr. Gottemoller. With his opening, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Joe Gottemoller. I've lived in McHenry County since 1984. My family's lived in what is now the United States since the Mayflower. I have lived in McHenry County and with my wife and raised 3 children here. I do not intend to hire any of those 3 children. They are actually all employed in other parts of the country. The county is a great place to live, and I believe that McHenry County must play a lead role in fighting property taxes and taking our local economy and returning around our local economy and bringing back those primary jobs that we're missing. During the past year, we've begun the process under my leadership. We've completed the Comprehensive Economic Development Plan. We're holding our first Economic Development Conference. We've created our first enterprise zone. We have an economic incentive package being prepared to encourage private businesses to locate and expand here. And at the same time doing that, we've held costs down. We've reduced our county head count by 219 employees since 2010. We've saved taxpayers over $14 million since 2010, and we have the smallest budget in 9 years. When tonight's over, you'll have had the opportunity to see the difference between Mr. Walkup and myself, and I hope that at that point in time, when you get into the polls at the end of this month and the beginning of March, that you re-elect me to the County Board Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Walkup.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Whoa. Good evening, everyone, and thanks again to the League for holding this forum. Many of you were probably here last week and heard me answer some questions. It's being Groundhog Day. That must be why this is happening over and over. I am running for County Board Chairman position and re-election to my board seat because my board seat happens to be up in this election cycle. Mr. Gottemoller's is not up this time. Under the rules that I helped establish, someone who holds both positions cannot collect 2 salaries. But under state law, a chairman who is not a board member may not vote on any issues that come before the board. This is the first time in the history of the county that we are going to be electing the county board chairman at large. So what we do in this election will have major implications for our future. My family are one of the first settlers in McHenry County, and we have a long and distinguished history here, and I would like to continue to contribute to that history. Mr. Gottemoller and I are both attorneys. We are both current county board members. We're both running for board chair, but there is an important difference between us. My law practice, which is only part-time at this point, and which I would phase out entirely if elected chair, does not involve anything that remotely interfaces with county or local government. I do disability consulting and divorce mediation. Mr. Gottemoller, on the other hand, has practiced where he represents mostly developers, real estate interests, townships, and other special interests who do interact with local government frequently. This has already resulted in several situations which I would define as evidencing conflict of interest, such as representing the Peaker plant in Oakwood Hills, which was vehemently opposed by several of his 100 of his own county board district constituents, and most recently, voting against placing a referendum on township consolidation on the ballot while he was acting as a paid attorney for one of the townships. I think that having such a law practice is incompatible with holding any government office at any level, let alone chairman of the county board, and that's why I'm running, to give voters an alternative. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 1, we'll start with Mr. Walkup. As county board chair, how will you reinstill a sense of mutual respect among board members and foster professionalism, especially when committee recommendations have been brought to the floor?
Well, we have 24 members on the county board, and so trying to work with that many people can be unwieldy, and there's a lot of different personalities. We're also involved in actually a historic struggle, I think, right now for the county board between those people who are interested in trying to question everything that comes down the pipeline from the administration in the interest of trying to save taxes, and those people who tend to want to support the administration and say yes to most things. So there's going to be some tension. It's not as bad as the Congress or the General Assembly by a long shot. But we do try to be collegial, and I get very well with people on a personal level, on the board floor, but when we're on the board floor, being a lawyer, being a trained advocate, you know, I take a strong position in advocating what I believe in, but it doesn't affect how I relate to people on an individual level.
Thank you. Mr. Gottemoller.
Yes, during the past year, as chairman of the board, I've gone through great lengths to give everybody the opportunity to be heard. As far as collegiality, I think that you have my gentleman next to me who can explain to you exactly why that's not always possible. He just did it tonight. As far as my reputation is concerned in terms of staying out of things, I was able to withdraw when there was an issue, and in fact did withdraw when I had an issue that was a prior client. On the other hand, Mr. Walker, when we were dealing with township consolidation, kept confusing his opening statement between consolidation and elimination because he'd been paid by the petitioners in a prior case to eliminate township government. And yet, nevertheless, he thought nothing of voting in that matter. I think that's exactly the problem we have at the county, and I'm sorry that we have that kind of fratricide going on, but in fact, there is a group that has decided that that's the way they want to play the game.
Thank you. Do you feel zero-based budgeting is the practical way for McHenry County to save taxpayer money? Starting with Mr. Gottemoller.
Zero-based budgeting is to a certain extent what the county did this year. It didn't start from zero at every level, but in fact the Finance Committee this year went to every single department and asked how they could save money, and in fact took those ideas then back and brought them to the county board. For the county board is 24 members, to go line by line through a $234 million budget, we're not going to find the things that the department heads will find. There are 27 departments, ranging from the Sheriff's Department to the Public Health Department to GIS, which is the system of mapping. We need those department heads to help us, but zero-based budgeting certainly makes sense.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
If you look at your tax bill, you will see a large number of taxing bodies levying taxes. And each of these taxing bodies basically operates as in a vacuum, as if there's nobody else there doing that. But it all adds up, as Edward Dirksen used to say. The county board is only 10% of the total tax bill, but we're the ones that people look to. You don't see the reporters going too much to the meetings of the library board or you know, the mosquito abatement districts or the like. You see them looking at the county. We were able to accomplish something, I think, as a result of what the county board did in refusing to take the CPI increases that we could have taken over the last 3 years. And that has had an effect, I think, down the pipeline to some of these other local taxing bodies, and we've now seen them starting to follow suit. So I think the important thing we can do in county government is to set the example, because we're the ones that people are looking at, and then voters are going to be asking these other taxing bodies, if the county is doing that, how come you can't do the same thing?
Thank you. Mr. Gottemoller, starting with you. As County Board Chairman, what will you do to help bring companies and good-paying jobs to our county?
Well, better than what will I do, what we've done in the past year. We started with the first comprehensive economic development study. The county board actually approved it today. It works with Winnebago and Boone counties to try and look at what things that we have that we can expand on here. We've done the first enterprise zone so that we have a place that we can locate, including the towns of Woodstock and Harvard, those new businesses. We have worked on the first economic development conference, which will happen in a week. Or 2 weeks, excuse me. And with those things, along with the collaboration that we have and with other government entities, for instance, we've collaborated with Kane County a few years ago to get 47 and I-90 done to help our transportation corridors. We're working with McHenry County Council of Governments to lobby for improved transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
I believe in balance. I think that people want to have jobs, they want to pay low taxes, but they also want a nice place to live. We are very fortunate in McHenry County. I think we have a pretty good balance. And we have a little breathing room from the development boom that we had a few years ago that was threatening to overwhelm that balance. I think that what we need to be doing in McHenry County is looking at what the quality of life is for the residents. And do we want to become another DuPage County? Do we want to become another Schaumburg? We need to have the right kind of businesses coming in here, the ones who will be able to employ people at a wage they can afford to live in the county, unlike Motorola, which brought in people from outside the county because they couldn't pay them a living wage, and eventually went out of business, and we now have a big empty building sitting there. So I think we need to be judicious in our selection of what we're going to be bringing into the county so that people can have not only economic prosperity, but a good quality of life to go along with it.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, what are your plans to repair the sad state of the county's roadways?
I have been one of the people who has been questioning some of the things that our Department of Transportation wants to do, which confound me. I helped to stop the ridiculous continuous flow intersection that they had planned for the intersection of Randall and 62, which was the craziest thing I've ever seen. You don't put a continuous flow intersection where you already have existing businesses that are going to be cut off in terms of access by that intersection. I briefly was able to stop a roundabout going at Dow on River Road, which didn't have enough traffic really to support it, which endangers a conservation wetland area. Then I was reversed, or we were reversed at a later vote when the transportation people brought it back. I think that we need to upgrade the existing roads, but in our transportation plan, some people are actually in the transportation plan with little pictures holding up signs from going to the meetings, which said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right now, the traffic is stable. We are not adding population, and we are not adding traffic, so if it ain't broke, we shouldn't be spending money trying to fix it.
Thank you. Mr. Chadwick.
There's many things we can collaborate on in terms of our roadways. We have been working with the McHenry County Council of Governments to lobby our legislators and the federal government for help with expanding Route 47 from Huntley to and through Woodstock. We've been working with that same group to expand Route 31 from Crystal Lake to McHenry. Both of those roads should have been done a generation ago, but they're not. We are working with the town of Marengo to work with whether or not 90 and 23 will ever be opened as an interchange. In fact, it would be the only interchange in McHenry County's history. We are the largest county in the United States in terms of population without direct access to an interstate. We've also worked with and supported Lake County's efforts to expand Route 53 up to Route 120. That plan, and it's still years away, but it will change the dynamics of how people in McHenry County get to the interstate. All those things are things that we need to work on over time.
Thank you. Starting with Mr. Gottemoller, what measures do you propose to retain farmland when development pressures occur? Sorry.
Can you repeat that? I'm not sure what that is.
What measures do you propose to retain farmland when development pressures occur?
Well, first and foremost, the comprehensive plan as it currently exists for McHenry County and the Unified Development Ordinance, which I wrote to work with that, encourages development first and foremost in a nodal process, so that development is going to be near towns, it's going to be near intersections that already support that type of growth. As far as farmland is concerned, I support the agricultural initiatives to keep it in place. I think it's one of the most important things that we have in the county, and agricultural and food are one of the cluster industries that we have in McHenry County that we need to continue to seek to support and build.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Well, actually, I'm a farmer myself. I have a farm out on my family's original farm, and we obviously go back in farming a long, long way. I was on the 2020 Land Use Commission, Planning Commission, and we developed that was at that time the radical idea about the nodal development. And we were going to have it so that everything in the western half of the county, that you couldn't build on it unless it was contiguous to an existing municipality or historic town center. When we unveiled that, the real estate community went berserk and flooded the county board members' boxes with complaints about how it wasn't going to work, and the whole plan died at a tie vote at a very tumultuous meeting that ran until midnight. Ever since then, I've been trying to raise the issue as much as I can. It is incorporated in the 2030 plan, but in a somewhat watered down fashion. I would like to go back to that idea when we start to develop the 2040 plan. Right now in the county, what we have is too much of a hodgepodge going on.
Thank you. And the last question, and we'll start with Mr. Walker. How are you viewed by local community leaders, township, government, how are you viewed by local community leaders, township leaders, government entities, and anybody that you currently deal with?
When we tried to consolidate townships, and I was involved in that initially, we were not able to do it. And the reason we were not able to do it is every time you try to consolidate a local government in order to try to save the taxpayers some money, and we have 7,000 units of government almost in the state of Illinois, more than twice as much as any other state. There are people who are entrenched in those positions and draw their paychecks in those positions, and sometimes hire their family members to work in those positions. And they come out in force and they scare the politicians, and the politicians back off. I think sometimes I try to work with the local leaders, but there's sometimes when we have to look out for the taxpayers. And I went to a recent dinner where all I heard was how government needs more money. Government doesn't need more money. Government needs to use the money that it has more wisely, and I continue to be an advocate for that position.
Thank you.
As usual, my opponent was unable to answer that question. I have 19 mayors and village presidents that support my candidacy. I believe every township supervisor and highway commissioner supports my candidacy. I have worked extensively.
Could you speak into the mic a little bit?
Yeah, I've worked extensively in my private practice before becoming a county board member, and I've appeared in front of virtually every municipality in McHenry County. I do know those entities, and I work with them, and I intend to continue to work with them. They are not going away despite consolidation or otherwise. I expect that they will have township government, and we will also have municipal government in McHenry County for a long time. I'm happy to be able to collaborate with them, and I look forward to being able to do it if I'm returned to office.
Thank you. And now we will go to their closing, and we will start with Mr. Gottemoller. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for the League of Women Voters for putting this out tonight and holding this debate. These debates are the only time that the public can compare the candidates side by side. I also want to thank those who attended the event tonight. I hope you've had a chance to see the difference between us. I believe McHenry County is going to grow again. I believe that growth is the only way we can permanently lower our property taxes. If we do not bring well-paying primary jobs back to McHenry County, we will never get control of our taxes, and we will always be overtaxed. I hope with your support to help McHenry County lower those taxes in the future and bring those jobs back. If you see a need for both of those things, please vote for me, Joe Gottemoller, for McHenry County Board on March 15th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Thank you again to the League and all the attendees who stayed through all 3 of these presentations. As I said before, this is going to be a very important election. The first time we elect the county board, the chair at large is going to set a precedent for our future. It's therefore vital that we make the right choice. I do not want to get personal with my opponent. He and I have had cases together over the years, and I've always found him to be courteous and professional. So this is not about him in particular. This is about the situation that is created by his candidacy, his current position as county chair, where he was elected by the other board members. It is simply impossible for someone in his position with his type of a law practice to avoid conflicts of interest. In fact, despite his best efforts to do so, conflicts have emerged on several occasions in the past 3 years. It is inevitable. I cannot think of too many situations that do not interface with the type of law practice he has in one way or another. It has been said that politics and government in McHenry County are like an iceberg. 90% is below the surface. We know what we've seen on the surface, but we have yet to plumb the depths. There may or may not be anything going on there, but the mere existence of this type of situation erodes public confidence in county government. It cannot help but do so. For my part, I pledge that I will have no conflicts of interest and will devote full time to the job of County Board Chair. I will not be using my public position to enhance my private fortunes. For the type of salary involved, over $100,000 with benefits, the public deserves nothing less. My family has been in this county since before it was a county. I have a proud family tradition to uphold, and I intend to try to make my ancestors proud. Please vote for me on March 15th.
Thank you.